Antonio's Story, Legacy of the Fallen, by Charles Olson. Chapter 10. First Smoke, First Friend. The late afternoon sun hung low over Panama City, throwing long shadows across the cracked concrete of the old basketball court, nestled behind a cluster of faded apartment buildings. It wasn't a playground for kids. Not anymore. The residents were mostly older, retired, or long settled into routines that didn't involve shooting hoops. But Antonio was out there anyway, dribbling a sun-faded basketball, the thump-thump echoing between the high walls of the courtyard. He was 13, lanky, quick, already carrying himself like someone older than his years. He was alone, as usual. Amato's Lincoln was parked just off the lot, tucked under the shade of a dying palm tree. Amato himself was slumped low in the driver's seat, feet propped up, sunglasses on, napping between runs. Antonio liked the quiet. It helped him think. Or not think. Both were welcome. Thump, thump, thump. Antonio turned. A kid stood at the edge of the cracked court, half in shadow, the setting sun throwing a golden line across his face. He was about Antonio's age, maybe 13. But life had already carved a few years into his eyes. His skin was sun-darkened, the color of roasted mesquite, and streaked with the kind of grit you couldn't wash off with a single bath. His black hair flared in all directions, wild and uncombed, like it hadn't seen a brush in weeks. He wore a pair of faded jeans, 2 sizes too big, cinched with a frayed length of rope. The knees were torn, one leg patched with a scrap of denim a different shade entirely. His shirt, a short-sleeved flannel, was buttoned wrong and hung crooked off one shoulder. A battered military-style backpack dangled from one arm, stained and threadbare. He smelled rough, sweat, smoke, and asphalt. But Antonio didn't flinch. He'd smelled the same on worse days. What stood out most wasn't the clothes or the grime or the smell. It was his face. Strong cheekbones, dark, thoughtful eyes, and a proud jaw. Mexican, no doubt. That deep, carved heritage that showed even beneath the layers of survival. There was something sharp in his gaze, not threatening, but alive, like someone who'd been watching the world from the outside for a long time, and knew exactly how much it owed him. A cigarette hung loosely from his lips.
You got a light?
The voice was new, unfamiliar, cracked slightly with puberty but confident. Antonio squinted at him, reached into his pocket and grabbed his lighter. Antonio flipped the lid of the Zippo open with a practiced flick of his thumb, snapped his fingers by the striker, and flame danced alive. The other boy leaned in, lighting his cigarette with the reverence of a holy rite. He pulled back, exhaled slowly, and grinned.
I'm Mono,
he said, offering a hand. Antonio hesitated, then took it.
Antonio.
They sat on the edge of the court for a while, smoking in silence, passing the Zippo back and forth between flicks and flips like it was a shared inheritance. Then they got up and started shooting hoops. Neither of them mentioned the fact that they were the only kids for blocks. They played until the shadows swallowed the court. No one kept score. As the sky turned purple-orange, Antonio walked Mono to the front of the building. Amato, now awake, leaned against the Lincoln, watching them. He gave a small nod at Mono, a raised eyebrow at the cigarette, but said nothing. Then he asked,
Friend of yours?
Antonio looked over at Mono, who was already lighting another cigarette with his Zippo swipe, copying the trick. Antonio grinned and spoke.
Yeah, he is.
From that day forward, they were a team. It would take a war to pull them apart. The shower. When they reached the apartment, Anna was at the kitchen sink, rinsing vegetables. She looked up when the door opened and froze. Mono stood there, hesitant in the doorway, his backpack slung low, shirt hanging half off one shoulder, grime like a second skin.
Who's this?
Anna asked carefully.
Mono.
Antonio said.
He's staying with us.
Mono opened his mouth, unsure whether to protest or explain, but Anna was already walking toward him. She stopped just short and looked him over, not with suspicion, but something gentler. Maternal, wary, but open.
You smell like a tire fire.
She said. Mono shrugged.
I've been sleeping behind a bus depot.
Bathrooms down the hall, shower's hot, there's a towel on the hook. Don't touch the blue razor.
Mono blinked, surprised.
Seriously?
She nodded.
Seriously, you want dinner? You come back clean.
20 minutes later, he emerged in a cloud of steam, damp hair slicked back, skin several shades lighter. Anna handed him a clean t-shirt, one of Antonio's old ones, and a pair of drawstring shorts.
We'll get you your own stuff tomorrow.
She said. The next day, she took him shopping. Nothing fancy. Jeans, shirts, a hoodie, sneakers that actually fit. At the checkout, Mono stood awkwardly behind her, unused to being seen, or chosen. Back at the apartment, Anna opened the door to the spare bedroom and pointed inside.
It's yours.
She said.
Try not to burn it down.
Mono laughed, a real one, scratchy and unguarded. That night she made him tea and sat beside him while he picked at a plate of rice and eggs. She didn't pry, she didn't push, but she listened. And he talked. Not about everything, but enough. There was a softness in her that reached him. Not pity, but warmth. And in Mono, Anna saw something broken, but loyal. Something worth saving. Maybe even something she had once lost.